we heard from head coach Dan Campbell about what this win streak has meant to this Lions organization.
I'm drained, but I'm excited, believe me. I mean, the guys know how I felt all week about this game. But yeah, look, I don't think there's a surprise here. I've said it before. It's hard when you get down in the dumps and you were where we were at. It's easy to lose faith, but these guys never did, and we stayed true to what we're about. And they knew, they believed we were one play away, and that's where we've been. And so now we're making the play. We're making the one extra play. It's not costing us, and we're able to overcome some of these mistakes we were making earlier. So, no, our guys, they know they belong. They know they belong, and they know when they play football like we've been playing the last 6 weeks, we can play with anybody. That's the truth.
Ooh, is that the truth, Michael?
Well, I mean, look, I watched a lot of the game. I went through it this morning, and I mean, they did. I mean, look, they did a great job on Dalvin Cook. He had the red zone turnover. This was a Minnesota game that was not typical of Minnesota in the sense that Minnesota typically is really good in the red zone. They were 2 for 4. They're usually good on defense in the red zone like they were against the Jets. They weren't against Detroit. Detroit's red zone offense has really been very effective. They were 2 for 2. Detroit made big plays, 46 and a 41-yard touchdown on big plays. But I think credit the Detroit defense for stopping the run, making the game one-dimensional. Credit the referees for calling Jefferson out of bounds, because it made the close. And look, credit Campbell for the fake punt was a great call. Mm-hmm. Great call. Needed that. Kind of turned the momentum. But the fullback in the flat with your man Sewell, which is really the offensive tackle in the flat, was a hell of a call. Hell of a call. Perfect call. Kind of what they absolutely needed at that moment. And they did it. And look, nobody's playing better than Goff right now. Goff has been very effective. His accuracy down the field has been great. They didn't get any pressure on him. He had time to throw the ball in the pocket. And both teams averaged 6-7 yards per play. But this Detroit team just found ways to get the ball. It made the big plays, 48-yard touchdown, 41-yard touchdown. I mean, they make big plays, and credit them. I thought they would win the game. I think the score was a little misleading. I think the game was a lot closer. I think what happened in this game is and give Detroit full credit here, is they won the fourth quarter. So Minnesota has 15 plays in the fourth quarter. They get 5 first downs and 10 points, but they fumbled. Meanwhile, Detroit had 29 plays in the fourth quarter. They got 9 first downs and scored 13 points. Like, they won the fourth quarter, which is what they had to do. And I think you got to credit the call on 3rd and 1 where they needed to get that first down or else they were going to punt it back. And I don't think their defense would have stopped them. I really don't. I mean, the game, as it came down to an onside kick.
You mentioned Jared Goff and how he's been playing over those past 5 games. This is from Field Yates over at ESPN. Goff is 117 of 169. That's 69%. 1,300 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 75 as the Lions are 4-1 in those games, averaging just under 27 points per game. This offense has been clicking for much of this season, but the defense playing a little bit better. We're seeing Aiden Hutchinson, the 2nd overall pick. He's starting to come on. Like this defense, they're not good, but they're playing at kind of maybe an average level, which is probably all this team needs to continue to win games.
And they played good in the red zone, right? They stopped the run. They didn't let Cook get going, which was critical, right? That they made Minnesota one-dimensional. They got 4 sacks on Cousins. Minnesota lost their backup left tackle, too, in the game, which was a problem. But, and they were able to handle that. And, look, they created the 2 fumbles, which was essential. And look, Detroit missed a field goal in the game, too, right? The wide left, 40 Bagley missed the wide. That really would have been that was a huge miss at that point in the game because that would have made it a 2-score game, and he missed that field goal, which was problematic. But, they did a hell of a job. I mean, that was right at the end of the first half with 10 seconds to go in the half. He misses that field goal. Would have sent them in at halftime. They would have been up 17-7. But, they came back from that. But, look, Minnesota, they can't stop anybody on defense. Yeah. And they didn't play good in the red zone. I mean, this was kind of the game that we've all been waiting for Minnesota to have, which was not great. And then they got dominated in the second half. I mean, Minnesota only had the ball for less than 10 minutes in the second half. Think about that, Femi. They had less than 10 minutes in the second half. The entire second half, not the fourth quarter, the entire second half.
That's pretty remarkable. And I saw this from ESPN Stats and Info. Vikings allowing 464 total yards. Their 5th straight game that the Vikings defense have allowed at least 400 yards in a game. That's the longest streak in franchise history. This defense is historically bad. And we've had all the discussions, hey, are the Vikings frauds? Are the Vikings pretenders? And games like this are going to kind of reinforce more of those kind of beliefs that people have about this Minnesota team. But real quick, Michael, before we get to the next game, the Lions at 6-7, they have a favorable schedule going on. Now, they have a tough game in New York against the Jets on Sunday. But do you think that this team could potentially sneak in to the playoffs in the NFC wildcard?
I mean, they could. I mean, who's the way they're playing? They're peaking at the right time. I mean, the Jets game will be a tough game, but who's going to play quarterback for the Jets? We'll get to them. But Mike White took a beating. I mean, Mike White. I mean, that poor kid took a beating. I mean,
it's tough, man.
I mean, that was bad. And then are they going to go back to Flacco, or are they going to resurrect? Are they going to resurrect Zach Wilson? So that's going to be the determining factor in that game. But look, they're not playing. They're playing so well on offense. And for as much as I criticize Goff for having the table of 2 near the heaters, he's won 2 outdoor games recently. So, unless there's a meltdown offensively, they can move the ball. Look, the offensive line is protected. They move the ball well. Give Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, credit. They've got a good scheme. They get the ball down the field. And Goff, when he has time to set his feet, like we've often said, he didn't get sacked yesterday. Minnesota didn't get near him. They only had 4 tackles for losses.
Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.